Yeah, there's definitely something going on here, guys, because there's a serious lag between what I'm seeing on the screen versus what's happening here. There's like literally a 30-second lag, and I don't understand why. I think the internet is really busy or something tonight because I this is almost unworkable. All right, you know what? Let's try this again. I don't know what the deal is with the delay, but I'm experiencing about a 15-second delay between what I'm seeing on the screen versus what's coming out here. So my apologies if this is off a little bit. The internet must be a little bit slow on Sunday night over here, but we're going to try this again. There's only 5 people watching right now, so ask away whatever questions you might have. Fire away. Hello, Eduardo. How are you? So this thing is way behind. I wonder what the deal is with the stream. It's definitely off. I'm good. Where are you watching from? Cool. I grew up in the Boston area. Manhattan, Kansas. I've only been to Kansas City once, and it was for a Monday night football game a couple of years ago where the Patriots got absolutely killed by the Kansas City Chiefs. Guys, in case you're just checking in, there's a serious delay going on with the internet tonight. I don't know what it is, but like I said, as I mentioned, I'm running about 20 to 25 seconds behind what's on the screen. So this thing's definitely a little off, and I apologize. Yeah, the Patriots don't lose that often, especially, they won the Super Bowl that year too, but they got killed in Kansas City. Wish I could do something about the delay. This is my first time doing one of these live streams, so wish everybody could forgive me as far as how this stuff runs because, again, having not done this before, I'm not sure if there's a way to speed this thing up or what. So like I said, guys, if you have any questions, fire away. I'll take them. I don't know if anybody saw the speech that I gave about Camp Miles in my seminar that's coming up here in September. I still have 8 spots left for that seminar, so if you ever thought about a career in real estate photography, or if you're just struggling in your current career, real estate is a great way to get your career going. It's also a pretty good way to make some money as well. In real estate photography, right now my primary camera is a Nikon D750, and I utilize the Nikon 14 to 24 millimeter f2.8 lens, along with a Cheetah flash and a Manfrotto tripod and tripod head. It's kind of weird watching the delay, like I'll say something now and it's like 15 seconds behind on the actual screen here. Where is Ken? I'm assuming you mean the angry photographer. I'm surprised he's not on here. He might pop on at some point. Ray, with regard to your question, am I planning on releasing tidbits about real estate photography? Bits and pieces here and there, yeah. Obviously, I'm more interested right now in getting the seminar filled. But yeah, I mean, I certainly will be pointing out, tips and tricks with regard to real estate photography, yes. Eduardo, I have the Canon 5D Mark III, and that's a great camera. In fact, it was my primary for the longest time until I really started getting into more wedding photography. And with the wedding photography, I found that for low light situations in particular, I just seem to do a lot better with Nikon. Fire away. case you're just tuning in, guys, there seems to be a bit of a lag between me actually talking and what's appearing on the screen. I'm hoping that as we roll along here, it'll get better, but as of right now, it still seems to be a good 10 or 12 seconds behind. And my apologies, I don't know what's going on with the internet tonight, but it doesn't seem to want to make live streaming happen in real time. I'm going to try to figure out how long this delay is, so I'm going to start counting. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. So it's about 12 seconds behind. Okay. The best way to find customers in photography, such as weddings, I try to limit the number of weddings that I do. I shoot between 12 and 15 weddings a year. And I try to cap it at that, mainly because I'm literally shooting over 1,000 homes per year. So to work every single day, and then to also have to work on the weekends, I really try to limit that, try to balance some family time. But to answer that question, the bulk of my weddings today have actually come via my real estate clients. The overwhelming majority, I'd say 80% plus. The remaining 20% has been word of mouth. Hey Ray, with regard to the 5DSR, no, I haven't. I've heard great things about that particular camera. It's also got one of the highest rated sensors for a Canon camera that's appeared on DxOMark for whatever that's worth. But I'm sure the level of detail would just be absolutely fantastic. Canon claims that the dynamic range of that camera isn't quite as good or any better than the 5D Mark III, and if that's the case, I'm still leaning towards Nikons for my real estate photography, especially for that shadow recovery and for those nighttime photo shoots that we do. Is anybody experiencing any delays at all with YouTube tonight? Okay. Oh, really? The 5D Mark III wins with dynamic range. Interesting. Again, I haven't used the 5DSR, but I've got a 5D Mark III, and I love that camera, especially when I'm shooting people. I find that Canon's color rendition, excuse me, especially in really good light, is much better than Nikon's in good light. In crappy lighting, it's better, I think, with Nikon. Okay, business question. Are you an army of one, or do you have a large staff? Mark, with real estate photography specifically, or with regard to the YouTube channel? Okay, in real estate photography, no, I'm an army of one when I'm shooting. As far as post-processing goes, there's a lot of options. You can do it yourself, but obviously outsourcing, especially today, is probably not a bad idea. Ian, with regard to your question about my biggest problem is convincing realtors to use the services of a professional, I think that's a great and common, not great, but very common objection. The best answer that I can give you is a testimonial that I got from a client of mine who used iPhone photos for the longest time, and it was a rental property here in Naples, on the water, nice house. She had it rent. She was the rental agent for the previous 4 years, and we have a really busy season here, from pretty much from November through May now. But anyway, she could barely get that property rented for maybe 1 month out of the season. Her owner of that house decided to hire a professional. He had found me via some agent, I don't know, but took our really high-end photos on the house. Photos came out great. Those photos got updated and replaced the iPhone photos. And once that happened, that property has sold out every season since. And that particular broker now uses me for everything. So my advice to you, Ian, would be consider doing a shoot or two for free, just to get your foot in the door, just to prove the value in what you do, and then kind of take it from there, because images really are everything. And if a real estate agent's giving you a hard time about whether they should pay for professional photography, then I would argue that's a realtor that probably doesn't understand their business, or may not be the most successful realtor, again, basing it on my experience down here. And by the way, Ian, with regard to advertising, my best advertising has been word of mouth. If I showed you a screenshot of my calendar, even this week coming up, I'm doing 4, 5, sometimes 6 jobs a day, really. How many clients do you have right now up in Montreal? And then Ian, let's see, you've offered the next property for free, and they insist they're okay with their own crap photos. Really? Have you done any work for these people? And by crap, I'm assuming you mean an iPhone, because that seems to be all the rage right now. Mark, you can certainly do that. I probably had the good fortune when I first started out that I had somebody kind of feeding me clients initially, and he was already established. He just had too much work, which you may want to try to do if you're just starting out, just an option. Consider finding a successful real estate photographer in your market that's been doing it for a while, and see if they need any assistance or any help, and then get clients that way. As that's kind of how I started 4 years ago. I sort of fell into real estate photography. It wasn't something that I had actually ever planned on doing, but now it seems to dominate everything that I do. And again, guys, I apologize for the lag in this stream. I wish I could respond more quickly, but I'm just about 15 or 20 seconds behind, and I don't know why. I'll probably have to troubleshoot this with YouTube and see what the deal is. So I'm curious if the 9 people that are on right now, I'm curious with regard to what kind of cameras are you using now, and what focal lengths are you primarily using in your real estate photography now? Hey, Hater, that's a great question. Interesting. A7, 5D Mark III. Hater, if I were to choose between a DA10 and an A7R Mark II personally for real estate photography, I would most likely utilize a Nikon DA10. I might even consider a Nikon D750. And Ian, the 17 to 50, a 5D Mark III with a 17 to 50, isn't that a 17 to 40? And then Mark Sony A7 II, 24 to 70 f4 and an 85 bat test. 16 to 55 is probably the best way to go for real estate. By the way, is that 16 to 55 or 16 to 35? Okay, that's what I thought, 40 millimeters. How do you guys like using the Sony A7R II? Because my experience with it was kind of spotty. I didn't like the AF that much. I couldn't stand the battery life. And given how much I shoot, I would probably need like 4 or 5 batteries during the course of a day with the Sony A7R, just pretty much the Sonys in general. It's too bad too, because I find that the image quality of the Sonys is just amazing. Yeah, the battery life is pretty bad. Hader, with regard to high resolution, I don't know if you're doing real estate photography, specifically our architectural photographer. I don't know that you need more than 24 megapixels. Just my opinion. But the Nikon D810, which I have, is a hard drive destroyer. It just shreds my hard drive because it uses up so much memory. Michael, the A7R2 and the Canon 1124, that's an interesting combination. I've never used that lens. How do you like it? Okay. Yeah, the hand grip would double the number of shots. Interesting though, I found that even with that, I have the hand grip on the A7S, and I think it's great. Um, but it's still only about half the battery power of one Nikon D810 or D750 battery. Yeah, Jason Leitner's a really, really good photographer. Um, he's a big time Sony guy, but he knows his stuff and he loves those cameras. I'm not as big of a fan of the Sony cameras as he is, but to each his own. Photography is, it's all about individual preferences and individual decisions. The Sony, I love the image quality from Sony. I think the image quality from Sony is amazing, but it is the most frustrating camera system to use, in my humble opinion, just world according to me. And Mark, with regard to the grip being $500, yeah, the everything with Sony is pretty expensive. And again, for the ergonomics that you have to put up with a Sony, I find it's such a challenging camera to use that, this is not to say that it doesn't produce beautiful images. Again, it does, but it's just a very frustrating system to use, in my opinion. And then Hader, with regard to eye autofocus, that works beautifully. And if you're shooting portraits, then the Sony line of cameras is awesome. If you're shooting any sort of action, and I would even argue weddings, then I would be a little bit hesitant, or concerned about the A7 line of cameras in general, just my opinion. The 85 G Master is fantastic. It's a beautiful, beautiful lens. Unhappy conservative. You must be a Donald Trump fan. Ken Wheeler is live right now. No wonder why he's not on right now. That explains everything. He probably has a lot more viewers than I do, so hopefully I can probably get to you a little bit faster. Could explain why all the bandwidth is being sucked up and why there's such a big delay right now, because Ken probably has a ton of viewers as we speak. Yep. So let me ask a question. Is anybody interested in taking a seminar on real estate photography? Mark, the A6000, I have it. I think the autofocus system is awesome, which is ironic, but it must have something to do with the crop sensor versus the full frame and how well they can autofocus. But the A6000's AF is excellent. With regard between Trump or Hillary, oof, that's a toughie. I'm really not a huge fan of either, and I tried really hard to stay out of the political discussion as much as possible, but for some reason down here, I've become like the photographer of choice for the Republican Party in Southwest Florida. I've taken a lot of photographs of politicians. Almost all of them have been Republicans, but if Hillary wants me to take her picture, I'd take it. If Obama wants me to take his picture, I would absolutely take it. Let's see. Why do you suppose Canon and Nikon makes lenses? Why don't Canon and Nikon make lenses like the 85? Well, I mean, Nikon and Canon has a unique 85. They have an f1.2 85. And Canon and Nikon, Canon doesn't have a 1.4, interestingly, but the Nikon does. What I love about the G Master 85 is the 11 aperture blades. The bokeh is really cool, and I think the optics of that lens are just fantastic. I think they're fantastic. Oh, where am I? I'm in Southwest Florida. Okay, so Michael, yeah, you probably are used to the Sony menu system because almost everybody across the board that I've encountered hates the Sony menu system. Probably because they got very used to Canons or Nikons. Canon's menu system is like an Apple versus a PC compared to everybody else. Let's see. Huh. Yeah, the Nikon 85 1.8 is probably the single best value lens in the entire marketplace. It really is. At least I think it is. For $500, it's pretty incredible. I just reviewed the Tamron 85 1.8, the new one, the SP. It's really good. It's a few $100s more than the Nikon, but the build quality and the vibration compensation well, it has vibration compensation, but the build quality is so much better. Let's see, A7 II is older, doesn't have the same autofocusing system. I'd be interested, and we'll be in Orlando in October. Let's see. Canada is a pretty interesting, Canada's a little bit more social capitalistic than the US is, but I think every market can utilize real estate photography. The real estate market's pretty good up there, so I can't imagine that there wouldn't be a market for a real estate photographer up there. And with regard to, let's see, I've seen all the anti-Ken videos. I try to keep an open mind on all channels. I've watched a few of Ken's videos. I think on the whole, his information, specifically about lenses, is actually pretty good. Try to avoid all the noise. I don't think it was the best thing for him to go after Jason Lanier the way he did. But on the whole, I think Ken puts out pretty good information. With regard to the A7 II versus the A7R Mark II, A7R Mark II's focusing system is definitely better than the A7 II's, but I didn't find it was that much better. Let's see. Homes don't move quick in Ontario, move in hours. Okay, so Montreal is a different market than Toronto, I presume. Interesting. What's the biggest real estate photography market in the U.S.? Probably New York City. If I were to guess, it'd be New York, or even Miami. Wherever there's like a lot of dense concentration of condominiums and high-rises, you'll get lots and lots and lots of real estate photography. But real estate photography is pretty much good anywhere. Let's see, the new Sony Zeiss 50mm 1.4. I haven't used it, but I've heard great things. Dying to try it out. Let's see, in the GA Master 70 to 200, I'm also curious about that one as well. It's a big lens on a little camera. Let's see, Matt Granger says the customer experience is too bad at Sony. I haven't used Sony's customer experience, but I might be using it soon. I let my niece borrow my A6000 and she dropped it. So when she gets it back to me, I'll actually probably be sending it in to Sony to get it fixed, and I'll let everybody know how that goes. But I have not experienced Sony's customer service other than a phone call that I made because my A7S locked up during a firmware update, and they managed to recover it for me over the phone. So in that aspect, at least their phone customer service wasn't too bad. And you're welcome. Unhappy conservative, you're welcome. Yeah, I would assume Los Angeles would be a great market for real estate photography as well. And honestly, Mark, I'm hoping I never have to use Sony's customer service either. But inevitably, stuff breaks, and if you own that stuff, you're going to have to encounter their customer service at some point, especially if you use them. Alright guys, it looks like the stream isn't working so well. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to set up another date here in the next week or so to do another live stream because I'm having a really hard time dealing with this delay. I'm literally 15 or 20 seconds behind. It's making it really difficult to interact. And I'm interested in Photokina as well. But I think we're going to, let me see. Well, I was about to end this, but wait a minute. Customer service is one of the biggest points in making choices between brands. Yes, I will say that if you can get into Nikon's professional service, the level of service is actually really good, but I didn't find that it was as good as Canon professional services, which in my experience has been or was excellent. Okay, Hader, if you say so. All right, I'll keep going then. We'll go for another like 10 or 15 minutes or so and see how it goes. There's actually 10 people watching right now. This is very exciting. We've actually hit double digits, so I'm pretty excited about that. Hey, 10. It's better than 9. So I guess we give this live stream a 10 out of 10. Yeah, I mean, I certainly would like to see more interaction, Hater. But, sometimes small crowds are better because you can at least get more interaction and more one-on-one type of attention, if you will, if there's only 10 people on. Well, unhappy conservative, here, I'm going to put a link up right now. If you click on that link, that's a link to the seminar that I'm having. It's limited to 12 people. And that's happening September 14th through the 16th. There's still 8 spots left. And there are 2 people who are local and 2 people so far who are from out of state. And I'm telling you, real estate photography is a great place to get started in your professional photography career. Mainly because it's much more difficult to get good footing either in weddings or in portraits. Not portraits, but wedding or like fashion. But real estate photography, you can get going pretty quickly. That's how much of a delay there is, Ray. Well, I've been to Australia. Love Australia. Love, love, love Australia. Been twice, actually. I went to Sydney twice and to Cairns and the Great Barrier Reef once. Thought it was absolutely, positively beautiful. And if somebody told me that you had to live in another country, where would it be? Not to visit, but to live, I would say probably Australia. Well, Mark, like I said, you would be an ideal candidate for you'd be an ideal candidate for the seminar. I'm trying to read comments and speak at the same time. Just because a lot of folks who are just starting out, it's a great way to learn the fundamentals or the basic elements of real estate photography, and it's phenomenal. I mean, it's a great, great career. It's a good way to make money as well. Michael, I'm thinking about doing an online course as well. YouTube gives creators the option to do paid content as well. So I might at some point in the future consider doing that. I haven't yet, but I might at some point in the future. Yeah, this is a long delay. All right, guys, we're going to call the stream over. I'm going to try this again in the future. So, let's see. Thanks, Hater. I appreciate the kind words. I really do. And I'll keep producing reviews. I got a few more. Oh, okay. Again, I keep saying I'm going to end this thing, and then somebody throws out a really good question. Eduardo, that's a great question. How much do I get paid? That kind of runs the gamut. Anywhere from like $100 all the way up to $1,000. It's all over the place. And Ray, I appreciate the kind words. Thank you. I really do. Hey, we're back up to 10. Okay, maybe we'll keep going for a few more minutes. So guys, if there's any questions you want to ask, anything you want to say, just fire away. We'll do like a quick, last 5 minutes here, and then we'll call it a night. Okay, Juan, that's a great question. Let's see, how's the real estate market in Orlando right now? As far as I know, it's pretty good. Florida in general is pretty good, especially if you're into real estate photography. Would love to see me shooting someday on YouTube. Okay, isn't that kind of what I'm doing now? Let's see. Michael, thanks. I appreciate the kind words. And David Nikon, good day. Welcome. What part of Australia are you from? Gold Coast, sweet. Let me see, do I do drone work? Yes, I do. In fact, I have 2 drones. I have the Phantom 3 Professional, and I have the Inspire 1, and they're both excellent. The FAA has also recently decided to get a lot more lenient with regard to drone and commercial use of drones, so there's a big opportunity there because clients love those pictures. Let me see, I think you meant doing a YouTube vid of you doing a real estate shoot, like Jason. Okay. Thanks, Mark. Yeah, at some point maybe I will do that. If I had to recommend a camera under 1.5K, which one would I recommend? That's a loaded question. Full frame, I would try to pick one up used. I would probably get a Nikon D750 if I had to pick one up. Okay. Well, Hader, that's certainly Hader. Where are you watching this live stream from? And then Eduardo, would I consider upgrading to the Phantom 4 from the Phantom 3? Yes, I would. Because down here, I can't tell you how many times one of my props has gotten caught in a palm tree or a palm frond. So yeah, I would definitely consider getting a Phantom 4 because it has a much better sense of situational awareness than the Phantom 3 does built in. Juan, can I give you an example of $100 work and an example of $1,000 work? You don't have to be specific, just the type of property you would work. Okay, $100 would be like a 2-bedroom, 2-bathroom condo, minimum of like 8 pictures and a virtual tour. $1,000 would be everything from drone shots to magazine quality images, night shots, the whole gamut. As you can imagine, down here in Naples, it's kind of the paradise coast of Florida. There's a lot of $1 million homes. Like even tomorrow, I'm photographing 3 houses tomorrow, and of the 3, 2 of them are over $1 million. So the agents have no problem spending money because they want to advertise those properties and make those photos as wow as possible to lure potential buyers. So most of those agents don't have an issue spending that kind of money on real estate photography. David Nikon, I totally agree with you. The D810, in fact, I would even argue that 24 megapixels is more than enough, in my humble opinion. I think 36 is overkill. Let's see. Yeah, Michael, they meaning DJI, just lowered the prices on the Phantom, not the Phantoms, the Inspire 1 cameras recently, the X5 and is it the X5R? I'm not sure, but they've lowered the price on those by a few $100s. It's still too expensive, I think, but that Micro Four Thirds sensor, the range on that's much better than the camera that just comes with the Inspire. What software do I use for virtual tours? I actually use an online company. There's several of them. A couple of big ones out there, but I can talk about that in my seminar. What's the nicest house that I've photographed? That's a relative and subjective question because I've photographed $800,000 houses that to me are way nicer than the $5 and $6 million houses that I've photographed. The $5 and $6 million houses, they're big and almost too much for like two people to live in them, my opinion. I'd much rather have a 2,000 to 3,000 square foot house than a 10,000 square foot house. That's just my opinion. Hader, if you go to Flickr, yeah, actually I can pull that up for you. Michael, how many speedlights do I have? I've got about, depends on the camera system. For Nikon, I think I've got 6 of them. But let's see. Yeah, I've got like 6 of the Cheetahs. The Cheetah stand flashes are awesome. The 860Xs are incredible. Let's see. Give us more details about the seminar. Okay, I'll go over the seminar here real quickly. It's from September 14th through September 16th at my studio and on location down here in Southwest Florida. If you've never been to Southwest Florida, it's a beautiful place. I'm biased. I live here, but it's a beautiful, beautiful place. Day 1, in the morning, we'll basically talk about gear and technique and the current state of the real estate business, a lot of testimonials from existing clients. Day 1 in the afternoon, we actually go out on location. I have a $1.7 million house lined up for us to photograph. Then we'll go back to the studio, we'll do some post-processing technique, and then we'll go back out after we eat to shoot that same house at night. The next morning, on the last day, we'll actually do some post-processing and then talk about the business of the real estate photography, whether it be virtual tours, how much do you charge, how do you get clients, how do you grow your business, and then how do you convert those clients into other clients, weddings, portraits, etc. It's a really great deal. I mean, all things put aside, for what I'm charging for this class, you'll get it back in 3 jobs, maybe 4 jobs. So it's really not asking a whole lot to show you how to get into the business for a relatively low cost. Let's see. Hader, come on over, man. It's a $695 class. If you're interested in becoming a professional, it's a great deal. I'm biased again, but it's a great deal. Mark, to answer your question, yes, you can. If you want to use those photos in your own portfolio, by all means, you can do that. Eduardo, I'll be capping the seminar at 12 people. Right now, 4 have registered. There are 8 seats left. The seminar is 4 weeks from today. And I'm going to put up the detail page again so you can all take a look at it. I'm going to find that Flickr page too and pull that up. Let's see. Okay, Michael, quick with regard to the Broncolor L800, haven't used it. I have a Profoto B1 and I have a Profoto B2. Um, and I think the B1 is awesome. The B2 I think is just okay. David, why are your elections so long? I don't know. It's been like this since I was this big, so we just kind of deal with it. Yeah. Michael, I haven't used the Broncolor, although it's on my list to try. So let's see. Any plans to do one during the weekends? Well, it really depends how this first one goes. Chances are pretty good I'll be doing more seminars in the future. This is my first one. I bought the studio earlier this year. So this is my first seminar that I'm doing. And a little background on me, I was a corporate sales trainer with a big Fortune 500 company for a couple of years, in addition to being a sales guy for 12 years before I ever got into photography. So I have a little bit of a background of actually teaching large classrooms of people and adult learners in new topics. Let's see. Real estate agents are never exclusive. They can call whoever they want to. But I would say that I've got a clientele, and this is to answer Mark Fusco's question. I work with about 300 to 500 agents on a regular basis. Wow. So David, how can you really vet a candidate in just 3 weeks? Do these people have pretty public profiles prior to getting into politics or running for the prime minister spot down there? Well, Hader, if you ever wanted to get out of software engineering, by all means, real estate photography is a pretty good career path. I see. With regard to picking a party and not a candidate. Okay, Mark, to answer that question, that's a great question. How busy? Yeah, yeah, I can. How busy I can be? 300 to 500 agents. Got it. Yeah, I'm busy a lot. But like I said, 3 to 5 jobs a day right now. In season, season's the busy time down here when it gets cold in the northern part of the U.S. Down here, from November to May, it is busy, and I can do 7 or 8 jobs a day, and I'm not exaggerating. One of the other things I want to teach you all how to do in this class is how to get in and out of a property very quickly and efficiently. And agents love that because they know they're not going to spend all day with you photographing a property. Gives them a lot more free time. Jay's, let's see, Juan, without getting into seminar specifics, you mentioned a 16 to 35 for the Zoom. Would that be ideal native Sony FE for real estate photography? I would say on a full frame, yes. If you're using an A7, 16 to 35 would be fine. Yeah, Michael, that's legit. And my calendar is crazy. It's crazy. And Mark, I shoot for a lot of Canadians. A lot of Canadians. Hader, what is the best and easiest type of photography to start making money? If you go to my seminar page, I think and play the video, I think I make that pretty clear. Sorry, I'm getting schooled on the politics of Australia from David Nikon. Well, Hader, like I said, if you watch the video, I think it'll become crystal clear, what a good career path is in photography to actually make money. Early bird pricing for the chat. Are you thinking about coming to the seminar? If you want, send me a private message and we can talk. The seminar's been out there for about two and a half weeks now. It's been live in terms of being able to buy a spot. Audio's choppy. Great. Yeah. The audio choppy, delay. Like I said, this has been a frustrating experience for me because it's taking too long between when I'm talking and when you're doing one of these live streams, you're talking or I'm talking, and then I'm watching myself appear on the screen like 15 seconds later saying what I just said, so it's kind of hard to maintain. Apologies for the audio and apologies again for the delay. Huh. Surfing photography. Okay, has it been like this the whole time, Mark, or just kind of intermittent? iPhone headphones may help. On my end or your end? Okay, it just started getting bad, okay. Interesting. Okay, well, David, you're half a world away. You're in Australia. I'd almost expect that to happen. What slider am I using? Right now, my camera slider of choice is the Rhino slider, the EVO, I think it's called. Haha. Yeah, hater. One of the great things about the west coast of Florida is sunsets, much preferred over sunrises. The Rhino slider is great. They have a control module that's really great as well. Okay, so maybe my microphone, I'm gonna get a little, thank you for pointing that out to me, Juan. So I'm a little bit closer now. Tell me if this is better. Hader, have you ever been over to the west coast of Florida? Hey, Terry Foon. How you doing? Yeah, Hader, you can do sunrise. Okay. I'm going to keep the mic a little closer to me. I've got this external microphone, so I'm going to move it a little bit closer, and hopefully this will make it a little bit better. So let's see. All right, now it's aimed towards me as well. Okay, so I'll keep talking. Hey, we're up to 11 viewers now. We're on a roll. This is great. So Terry, where are you from? David, I will absolutely agree with you. The beaches in Australia are absolutely fantastic, except you have this huge problem with this thing called the box jellyfish. I'm sure you've heard of it. I've never seen so many beautiful beaches with nobody on them. Wow, Terry, you're from Malaysia. Fantastic. Are you from, what is it? Is it Kuala Lumpur? Isn't that where that MH370 took off from, going to Beijing? Beach wars, yeah. West coast of Florida has beautiful beaches. We really do. Again, I'm biased. I live here. So, and Terry, thanks for the kind words, man. I appreciate that. Kuala Lumpur. I've never been there. It's on my list of places to go, though. Yeah, I mean, it's unfortunate. I hope they find that plane, man. I really do. I'm really curious to know what happened to that thing. Miami is a beast, and there's lots of bikinis in Miami. Lots and lots of bikinis. Let's see. Yeah, we do have Hasselhoff protecting the beaches. Is that on the west coast of the U.S.? Yeah, it's beaches. I mean, if you live on a beach, it's like anywhere. If you live in Sydney, you see the bridge every day. If you live in Southwest Florida, you see the beach every day. So it kind of becomes a novelty after a while. You forget how great it is until you go somewhere else. If you could tell us all one of the most important things about marketing photography, what would it be? That is a great question. And I don't know if there's a right answer to that. I can only tell you what my experience has been. I can tell you that virtually any ad that I've ever done hasn't been nearly as effective as word of mouth. And I think a lot of photographers would probably say the same thing. 70 to 80% of my calls or leads are referrals from either agents or sellers or somebody that knew someone that had used my services in the past. That's the overwhelming majority of the clientele that I get today. So for me, word of mouth has been my best advertising. I might have to build the house in the watermark. Yeah, 12,000 feet of water. I mean, gosh, I wonder if they'll ever find that plane. Mark, social media is a player, but I'll tell you, social media is more of an indirect form of advertising for me. I haven't had I've had some luck with Facebook ads, but not a whole lot of luck. Most of my social media comes into play when I post like a gallery of photos from a wedding, and I get a lot of inquiries that way. With regard to Instagram, I just recently got onto Instagram, but I hate the fact that I can only use my iPhone camera with it. I like using, real cameras. I'm not a huge iPhone camera user. I'm just not. I know the best camera is the one in your hand, but I'm just not a huge iPhone guy. I like controls and buttons and shutters and everything else. Okay, I'll check out AussieH1 on Instagram. I think mine is D Miles Photo. I'm not 100% sure, but I think it's D Miles Photo. Yeah, I photographed the back of my camera before and put it up on Instagram. That seems to have worked pretty well. Yes, Hater, I could use my A7R2, and I could put it up on Instagram. That's true. That's true. Good point. Touche. David, lately I've been into flowers. I'm assuming you mean macro photography? Yeah, Sony has the Wi-Fi thing going. The funny thing is the Wi-Fi on the Nikon, the D750, for all the great things that a D750 can do, the Wi-Fi and the program on the iPhone and iPad are awful. They literally want to transfer the entire file over Wi-Fi. It's ridiculous. I haven't used it in a while. I'm hoping that's actually been updated, but I tried it about a year ago and I literally put it down. Canon's Wi-Fi interface was really easy to use and very customizable. I really liked it a lot. But I haven't stopped using Canon. I just don't use them nearly as much as I used to. What do I think the future is for mirrorless or something else? I think so. Again, world according to me. If we can get mirrorless cameras to focus as well as DSLRs and as predictably as DSLRs in crappy lighting, then I think mirrorless will be great in the future. I really do. I think they're great now. I just think they could get a lot better. Do I shoot real estate tethered? No, I do not. In fact, I think if anybody took my course, they'd be stunned at how small my profile is in real estate photography. I'll check the D500. In fact, the D500 is probably going to be my next camera. I've heard so many great things about it. That's probably going to be my next one. I think the D5 is way too expensive. I need a third camera body as a backup in my wedding work. My D750 is getting up there in shutter clicks, and I just had this vision of it failing in the middle of a wedding, so I really want to get a third camera body. Michael, is YouTube worth all that you put into it as far as the customers you directly receive? That's a great question. Boy, I'd have to say no. For me personally, I think like a lot of gearheads, we just genuinely enjoy doing this stuff. I love talking about camera gear. Yeah, I love taking pictures, but I love talking about camera gear. And I can talk about it till I'm blue in the face. So, that's just a personal preference for me. I can talk about gear all day. So, but is it worth it for the customers that I receive? Probably not. But I think if you build a big enough audience, like if I were Tony Northrup, for example, who's got like 500,000 people, or if I was Digital Rev, let's get over 1 million subscribers, like 1.5 million subscribers, I gotta believe they've generated a lot of clients because of that. Let's see, DJRBFM, hey, what's up, man? And thank you for all the kind words you say about my videos. I really appreciate that. I'm surprised. I've got a big Australian contingent. It's funny, there's only 15 people on right now, and a big chunk of them are from Australia. So love your country, guys. Absolutely love your country. I've been there twice. Can't wait to go back. Just love it down there. Let's see, Juan, Capture One Pro, I presume, or Lightroom for raw converter? That's another subjective and great question. The only problem with Capture One is that it's a relatively small player in the market. And I've used Capture One. I like it. But I'm so accustomed and so used to Lightroom, it's really hard for me to switch away from it. And it seems everything that's out there is very Lightroom-centric and Adobe-centric, so I've kind of stuck with Lightroom. I used Capture One for a while, but I kept finding myself going back to Lightroom. So I'd probably use Lightroom. I'm not saying it's a better raw converter, but I just find the software is just slightly easier to use for my purposes. Let's see, Hater, D7200, and it's great. Use a 24 to 70. That would be great. 24 is really what, 36 to 105 in field of view equivalent. So it's kind of a slightly smaller frame to take a picture with. So if you're shooting real estate, I don't know that a D7200 with that lens is necessarily the best combination. Let's see, Mark Fusco, a bit of a gearhead. Yeah, Digital Rev and Northrop are good sites too. You're in that circle. Well, thank you. I really appreciate that. Those guys are big players, and at some point I would like to get up there, but YouTube is more of a hobby for me than it is just about anything else. I do these things like videos when I have a chance. I've had a little bit more time recently. Put out quite a few videos in a row. I've got another one coming out here shortly. So that should, but after that I've got a gap, so I need to get some more videos in production. Well, thanks, Hader. I appreciate that. I'll look into more. I mean, I'm trying to get more visible on YouTube. I mean, I've got, 23,000 subscribers now? So it's getting up there. I don't advertise it. I just kind of do it for fun. I started doing the YouTube channel about 3 years ago, but have been very intermittent with it. I don't just dump videos. I kind of do like one every couple of 3 weeks just because, I mean, I'm working full time, so I fit these things in when I can. Huh. Hey, I'll have to check into F-Stopper's Instagram page. I've never checked it out. I'll have to take a look at that. David, I lived in the U.S. for 17 years. Nice people, terrible workers' rights. Where did you live in the U.S.? Hey, I'm gonna run and get some more water. I'll be right back. And then let's see, it's 11 o'clock now, so we'll probably call this stream in about 15 or 20 minutes. But put up a few questions. I'm gonna run to get some water. I'll be back in like 30 seconds. All right, I'm back. Let's see, Matt Granger, 500,000 mark. Yeah, Matt Granger's actually pretty good. He's a pretty good photographer too. YouTube does give you a lot of credibility in photography circles. If you do a pretty good job on YouTube, a lot of manufacturers take notice. Like, I've been approached by Olympus. They've asked me to review some of their gear. They haven't given me anything, but they've asked me to review some of their lenses and cameras, and I've obliged them. They actually gave me the EM5 Mark II before it was available to review, so that was pretty cool. So if you develop any sort of relationships with manufacturers, it's usually along those lines. But Olympus has never given me anything. I wish they did, but they haven't. Love the windows. Do you mean these things back here? They're just plantation shutters, so very common in Southwest Florida and Florida in general. Matt Granger is a wanker. You'll have to forgive me. I'm not totally up to speed with Australian terminology, but I'm under the impression that wanker is not meant as a compliment. Just my impression. All right, guys. It's we've been going for, let's see. Oh, wait. Let's see. Michael, with all the flood of new photographers out here, do you feel it devalues the price you're charging in photography? Yes and no. I think you can let it do that. But at the end of the day, I think the work that you put out is sometimes worth more than 100 new photographers. Experience is a great teacher, and there's no substitute for relationship building. I can't tell you how many of my clients have stuck with me, even though there is lower price competition out there, because of the relationships that I've developed with them over time. Hater, what do you think about the angry photographer? He's so techie, but I don't know what is wrong with the people who say he is sick. Let's see. My impression of Ken Wheeler is that he has a lot of knowledge, specifically with regard to camera lenses in particular. He's very, very, very technical, way beyond anything that I've ever really considered. But I think he puts out pretty good information on the whole. And truthfully, the guy has a lot of great things to say about me, which I'm really appreciative about. I keep threatening him with, that the two of us should really do a review together, because that would be like the devil on one shoulder and the angel on the other. It would probably hurt both of our reputations, but I think he's got a lot of information. I wish Ken would just put up pictures of some of the work that he's done to give him more credibility, because he certainly sounds like he knows exactly what he's talking about. Let's see. David, you met him, totally up himself. Do you mean Matt Granger, or are we talking about Ken? Okay, Matt, that makes more sense. Mark, that's a great question. I am incredibly busy. I work a lot. I try hard to keep the weekends open. That's why I only limit weddings to like one wedding a month. Mainly because I'm raising two boys. They're young, and I don't want to miss out on a lot of their events that happen in their lives. So I try to keep my weekends free. It doesn't always work out that way. This time of the year, the weather gets really suspect sometimes during the week, and the schedule gets backed up. So I'll end up doing shoots on the weekends as well. Yeah, Terry, I understand Ken is not a real big fan of Sony. Um, my own experience with Sony is that I have a really hard time with the ergonomics and the battery life and the menu system, etc. But I got to tell you, those optics and those sensors are just amazing. I mean, amazing. So, in fact, I just got back from my family and I went to Georgia, the state of Georgia, not the country of Georgia, last week, and I brought along the A7S with the FE 35 millimeter f1.4. That is a beautiful lens. The images that I got out of that thing from this trip were just amazing. Although I'll tell you, there were images that I missed too because I kept fumbling with the autofocus and wanting to my focus point where it was supposed to go, and if I went on wide with face detect, it would focus on the wrong face. So I personally still prefer to shoot with point focus. That's just my opinion. So yeah, tomorrow's the first day of school too. Thanks, Terry. Yeah, Mark, here's hoping that the next generation of Sonys are ergonomically better than the ones they've put out to date. Hey, thanks, David. I appreciate the kind words. I really do. Thanks. And I hope to get back to your country at some point too. Love Australia. My wife and I have been talking about doing Australia and New Zealand at some point in the future, but it's such a long trip for us, but I'd like to get out there. Yeah, Hater, that's true. That's a great point. That's the downside of any business that's the results are subjective. If you think about photography, I could take a picture, and I could show it to 100 people, and 80 of them might love it, and 10 of them might hate it, and 10 of them could care less. So, there's so much personal preference that's involved with gear selections and camera choices and lenses, etc., that I just don't know if there's any right or wrong answer to a lot of this stuff. Michael, thank you, and Mark, you're right. Dual cards, yeah. To me, if I'm shooting weddings, I can't take a Sony. What's his name? Jason talks about how you can just get the recovery software. I can't imagine shooting a wedding with a camera with only one memory card slot today. I understand it wasn't like that 5 or 6 years ago, but it is today. The analogy that I like to make is a car without airbags. At one point in time, they didn't have airbags, and you didn't always die in a car crash. But if you could have an airbag, wouldn't you want one? I feel the same way about dual card slots. I just think a camera has to have them if you want to consider yourself a paid professional. I just think it's too big of a risk, and the second camera slot's like an insurance policy. I just think that you have to have it. That's just my opinion. And again, it's subjective. I know that Jason will disagree with me. I'm sure Ken would agree with me. But to me, I got to have two card slots. It's critical. You're welcome, Juan. Thanks for coming on. I appreciate it. Yeah, the 42.5 and the 75, best two lenses in the Micro Four Thirds world, in my opinion, for best two primes in the Micro Four Thirds world. Two amazing portrait lenses, amazing. Mark, put two shots together, Canon and Nikon, without showing the exit vector. Can I really tell which one is which? Yes. Assuming that the photographer hasn't messed too much with the color profile, the Canon's colors are much prettier in a pretty like outdoorsy kind of scene. Nikon's are kind of green. Slight exception to the D750, but the D810, the base profile on that thing in RAW is green. I mean, everything is green. There's a green tinge to it, so you have to manipulate the color a little bit. Canon's color straight out of camera, again, in pretty light, to me is beautiful. What's the word with Sony? I haven't paid much attention to the rumor sites lately. What's the word with regard to the next camera, Sony camera body? Yeah, Mark, we're on the same page. You got to have two memory card slots. And then Michael, when you first started, what was the time period before you felt it started to become worth it? Worth it in terms of getting paid to do it? Worth it in terms of my results? Can you better define what you mean by worth it? All right, guys, countdown. We're going to cut this thing off at 1 hour and 30, so 4 minutes and 30 seconds, and I'm going to shut it down. Okay, paid. I just wanted to be clear on that. It was about a year into it when I suddenly felt like I could actually make a living just doing real estate photography. You know, Sony's coming up with an A7R Mark II successor at Photokina. You know, I think I brought this up in the A7R2 review that I did. Sony has like attention deficit disorder. They literally are coming out with cameras faster than anyone can keep up with them, which is good and bad. It makes the cycle really short between cameras, and it's pretty amazing how each new succession or generation of camera has that one thing that makes it just that much better than the previous generation. I mean, Sony they're the kid that's like screaming, I want it now. They're the Veruca Salt of camera manufacturers. So let me see. Sony rumors for A6 autofocus on a new A7 III. Good. It'll make you a Starbucks coffee when you push the menu button. That's awesome. In the days when I was still trying to tell the difference between a DSLR and a pinhole camera, I only started like 3 years back. Photography seemed to me to be fraught with many ongoing wars. Those wars are only getting worse. Now that Sony's entered the mix, they've really made it worse for Canon and Nikon. I will say this, Sony has made Canon and Nikon better companies, in my opinion. DxO Optics, I haven't used it, so I might have to try it at some point in the future. I do see their ads when I go to DxOMark, because sometimes I'll do a review and I'm just curious to see like if my experience matches up to DxO. And honestly, sometimes it does, sometimes it doesn't. Yeah, there are factions on all sides, Terry. It's true. It's just the nature of the beast. You know, nobody ever wants to be told that the decision or choice that they made in a product was a bad one. It almost kind of gets you personally. Yep, somebody always wants to believe that whatever their choice was is better than what your choice was. So mine is better than yours. Yeah, not a pro. Battery issue is a deal breaker for me. I agree with you. The battery issue on the Sonys, I think, it's so bad it's almost obnoxious. Um, I, my A7S, I used it on this last trip, and I kid you not, 30 minutes in, 40 minutes in to a shoot, or having it with me, just taking a few photos, fresh batteries, I'm down to like 50, 60% in less than an hour. It's ridiculous. I'm so spoiled by Canon and Nikon. One of those batteries will last all day. And even the mirrorless Panasonic, the GH4, the battery life in that thing is amazing. Yeah, Terry, I agree with you. Photography is like any art medium or any art, yeah, medium or whatever, is incredibly subjective, and it's not the gear. The best piece of gear is the one that's in here between your ears. That's your best piece of gear. It's not the camera that's in your hand. It's not your lens. It's what you do with it. Hater, you probably need like 5 batteries in the box. Terry, you are exactly right. We agree. Hater, I hope they do fix the next Sony model for sure. Let's see. Oh, really? So I guess Sony is about to make an imminent announcement. Yeah, Terry, you're spot on. You're absolutely right. All right, guys, 10 seconds. We're going to shut this thing off. So I'm going to say goodnight to everybody. Thank you all so much for checking it out. I really appreciate it. And consider my seminar, because if you ever thought about real estate photography, it is a great place to go. So thanks, guys. Have a great night and take care. Bye. How do you stop this thing?